A final method for determining the winner of an election is called the method of pairwise comparison. Now, once again, the election would be held that voters would submit preference ballots, rank ordering the candidates in order of preference. Now, once we have all of the ballots in, we would compile them together into a preference schedule. And when we have a preference schedule compiled, we would then take the candidates two at a time, and we would hold little mini sub-elections, basically, for that pair of candidates. So I would take candidate A versus candidate B, and I would count how many times does candidate A place ahead of candidate B, and vice versa. The person who places ahead of the other the most is the winner of that little mini sub-election. Now we would do that for candidate A versus B, A versus C, B versus C, and I would continue to do that until I had done all of the possible head-to-head comparisons that I could. Now, once I've done that, I'll have a count of how many mini elections each candidate has won. So once I know that, then I can determine the winner as the person who won the most of these little mini sub-elections, and that is the candidate who actually wins the most head-to-head competitions, the most pairwise comparison elections. So the method of pairwise comparisons: pair up the candidates, determine who's the preferred candidate of the two, and then the one who is preferred the most in all of those pairwise comparisons is the winner of the election. So here we have a preference schedule, and I've set up a table for us to list our pairwise comparisons and then calculate the votes and find the winner. So I've also color-coded our candidates to make it easier for us to find where they are in reference to one another. So for my pairwise comparisons, I need to do every single possible pairing. So that means that A is going to get paired up with B, A is going to get paired up with C, A is going to get paired up with D, and then that's all the pairings that involve A. So then B will get paired up with C, B will get paired up with D, and now B has been in all of the pairwise comparisons possible with it. So finally, the last one I can do is C versus D. So now that I have all of my possible pairwise comparisons determined, I'm going to go through and count votes for them. So for each one, I'm going to have a number of votes for each candidate. So A versus B, I'm going to see how many times does A fall ahead of B. Well, it happens in the first column. So there are 14 there. But then it never happens again. So A has 14 votes. And B has all the rest of them. So I have 10 plus 8 plus 4 plus 1. So I have 23 votes for B. And then I'm going to repeat this for A versus C. So A falls ahead of C in the first column, and then never again. So A has 14 votes, and C has all the rest of the votes, so 23 votes. I'll repeat this for A versus D. A again has 14 votes, and never again falls ahead of D. So D has the remaining 23 votes. Now I'm going to look at B versus C. Now B falls ahead of C in the first column, not in the second or the third, but in this fourth column it does. So B gets 14 plus 4, or 18 votes. Meanwhile, C falls ahead in the 10, 8, and 1 column, so C has 19 votes. Then I'll be comparing B versus D. So B comes ahead in the 14 column, in the 10 column, in the 4 column. So B here gets 28 votes. And D is ahead in the 8 and 1 column, giving D 9 votes. And then finally, I'm looking for C versus D. C is ahead in the 14 column, in the 10 column, and in the 1 column. So C is going to get 25 votes. And D is ahead in the 8 and 4 column, giving D 12 votes. So now that I've determined all of the votes, I'm going to go through and I'm going to determine who got the most votes in each of these pairwise mini sub-elections that I held. So A had 14 votes and B had 23, making the winner of this mini sub-election B. Now, 23 versus 14 makes C a winner. 23 versus 14 makes D a winner. 19 versus 18 makes C a winner. 28 versus 9 makes B a winner. And finally, 25 versus 12 makes C a winner. So now that I've determined the winner for all of these sub-elections, I determine the winner of the whole election by counting how many times they were a winner in these sub-elections. So A was a winner 0 times. B was a winner twice. C was a winner 3 times. And D was a winner once. So this makes C wins the whole election. And if we needed to rank order from there, we would see who had the next most mini sub-elections. So B would be second, D would be third, and A would be in last place.